Exterminate. Sorry, got distracted doing something else. What are we talking? We're talking about the days of Noah.
But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
All right, this one's from popularmechanics.com. And it's a couple days old. I didn't know if it was worth talking about, but then I looked up how many readers Popular Mechanics has per month, and it was over 8 million. So, this type of information being distributed to millions of people, and it's worthy because it's really about the things that we've been talking about for a long time, since the beginning for me. One of the things I mentioned at the beginning of Age of Deceit back in 2011 is that I believe how the antediluvian world, the pre-God, flood of Noah, that world before that, I think is the mythical Atlantis. I think there could have been a whole civilization that established itself, people living hundreds of years, as the Bible talks about. And so when science comes to this type of investigation, it makes me kind of go, yeah. Popularmechanics.com headline here. Could Earth have once harbored a pure... I'm going to try that again. Popular Mechanics headline. Could Earth have once harbored a pre-human industrial civilization? Pre-human industrial civilization. Could that be possible? I don't know. This is nonsense, right? Well, let's see what they say here. The article says, complex life on our planet has existed for at least 400 million years. Yet, as a species, we only managed to create an industrial civilization around 300 years ago, allegedly. But what if an earlier industrial civilization existed on Earth millions of years ago? If that were so, how would we be able to prove it or disprove it? I thought it was my understanding. I could be wrong. This is where, a conversation with Basil might be good, because I thought scientific inquiry can't really disprove it. It can't it can't disprove. I mean, I guess you can disprove a theory that's already there. But anyway, I thought it can't prove a negative. But anyway, this is the crux of the Silurian hypothesis. Silurian. A fascinating thought experiment that appeared in a study published in 2018 in the International Journal of Astrobiology. The possibility of life elsewhere in the universe and its parallels with the Anthropocene, the current geological epoch during which humans have impacted Earth to the point of no return, has long puzzled Adam Frank. Adam Frank, a professor of astrophysics at the University of Rochester, New York, and one of the two authors of the study. Quote, it's common for any civilization that reaches our level of energy used to trigger their own version of climate change. Did you know that this whole thing is about climate change?
Since the beginning of time, man has yearned to destroy the sun. I will do the next best thing. Block it out.
Climate change. Climate change.
Mass extinction.
I love that they have to put it in the context of climate change to actually investigate this question. The quote continues, I was wondering, if there are alien civilizations, would they also trigger climate change?
Where are the aliens?
I don't know, Elon. You tell me, buddy. Frank ponders. This is really, I don't know. It's an indication, a clear indication of how modern academia, you can't investigate anything unless it's in the context of the worldview of the presented worldview of the elite. It's like, no, you can't just think or investigate if there were ancient civilizations. That's no. But you can ask the question, did they have climate change? Okay, millions of dollars. Here you go. Go research it, Frank. The other thing also is that I also think that this, I know that when, academicians and, when they talk about climate change like this, it's in the context of, we have industrialization and then we polluted the world and, it's so horrible. But I think it's also kind of a low-key admission that we are in a civilization now that can control the weather. Maybe not fully 100%, but definitely influence it a lot more. Cloud seeding is like almost 100-year-old thing. Maybe not 100, maybe like 80 years or something. And, we've had more recent things like HARP that allegedly can affect the ionosphere, which can affect the weather. So these are just admissions, I think, at a certain level, but also great. You guys are investigating whether there was some kind of ancient industrial civilization. Let's hear more. With this whirlwind of thoughts in mind. Whirlwind, huh? Interesting. Frank visited the NASA Goddard Institute of Space Sciences, GISS, an elite climate science facility at the University of Columbia, New York. It's an elite climate science facility. Is that where they're pushing the buttons? He wanted to share his thoughts with climate researchers and surely expected lots of raised eyebrows and skeptical stares in the process. Quote, I went into the meeting with Gavin Schmidt, a climatologist and the director of NASA GISS, and started talking about aliens. Aliens? And then Gavin stopped me and said, wait a second. How do you know we're the only time there's been a civilization on our own planet? Frank tells Popular Mechanics. The question was an aha moment for Frank, mostly because it allowed him to consider revisiting facts he had taken for granted. Oh, facts that he had taken for granted. I wonder how many facts that these people in academia and science take for granted. Another just question. I'm just asking questions, folks. I'm not saying I'm better or know better. Just asking questions. And then they have this photo of a spiraling type of geological survey thing here. What type of species, the different periods of time. So I'm sorry, globe earthers, it's not a globe. I'm sorry, flat earthers, it's not a flat plane. It's a tornado. It's a spiraling tornado, and it's a whirlwind. That's what it is. We live on a whirlwind Earth, which is just a fun little thing here. Let me continue with the article. Homo sapiens first appeared on Earth about 300,000 years ago. They just appeared out of nowhere. In the likely case that such an old industrial civilization had existed, it would predate the species in which we all belong. Oh, really? Kind of like how the Bible talks about the B'nai Elohim. They were there when God created the earth. Okay. It was then that Schmidt called the idea the Silurian hypothesis, paying homage to the sophisticated reptilian humanoids awoken by nuclear testing after 400 million years of hibernation in a 1970s episode of the British science fiction series, television series, Doctor Who. I love it. I love that we are just, science fiction is just becoming science fact. And we always knew it was all predictive programming, but it's just funny how it's all becoming normalized in mainstream academia. The study authors decided to laser in on the time period from 4 million years ago to 400 million years ago. Hey, where are we? What's the time window here that we're looking at? Well, we're just really laser focused, just really focus in, just laser focus on that 396 million year period in our past. I guess if you believe the world is like billions and billions of years old, then you can laser in on 396 million years. It's like the elite, thinking or processing money. They're like, well, let's just throw this $400 million into this project. I mean, what's 400 million when you have 7,000 trillion? That's a lot. 70 trillion in your bank account or something like that. I don't know. Anyway. Okay, let's continue here. Sorry, going off on a sidetrack. Going back hundreds of millions of years to find traces of a potential pre-Homo sapiens civilization is not a piece of cake. All right, Popular Mechanics. State the obvious there. Quote, after a few million years, Earth is pretty much resurfaced. You're not going to have any statues, buildings, or anything left, Frank said. Fossil records will be virtually non-existent, as everything will have crumbled to dust. Dust to dust, huh? The only evidence would come in the form of chemical imprints. You'd have to look at each layer of rock and then try to detect trends, look for changes in things like the carbon or oxygen isotopes, which are tracers of things like carbon dioxide. An industrial civilization would dump lots of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, just like we do, Frank says. Plastics or nanoparticles would also be good indicators of an industrial civilization that occurred in time immemorial. Yeah, okay, nanoparticles and plastics. And there's a little bit more here. I don't know that it's really important to get to all the details. This part was good. Applying Occam's razor, quote, the hypothesis that Earth may have harbored long extinct industrial civilizations and that existence may be recorded in the geologic record associated with climate change signatures is fascinating. However, even the authors are not sold on the likelihood of it being true, end quote. Stephen Holler. Holler at Stephen. An associate professor of physics at Fordham University in New York City tells Popular Mechanics, a great rule of thumb exists in science, and it goes by the name Occam's razor. In the 14th, okay, we know what Occam's razor is. If you don't, it's just the simplest explanation is the likely case. If an earlier industrial civilization did exist, and its extinction was the result of catastrophic climate change due to industrial activities, then we should heed the warnings because, as a civilization, we stand at the precipice. Quote, it will be a hard landing when we go over the edge. Wow. What, the edge of what? I love the NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming here. It just appeals to certain ways of thinking about the universe here. And we might very well not survive, says Holler. Great sustainability leads to fewer signs. There's an oxymoron in the Silurian hypothesis. The more sustainable a society is in the way it generates energy and manufactures resources, arguably, the more advanced a society is. The smaller the footprint it will leave on the planet. Yes, this smaller footprint would translate to few markers on the geologic record for that period. For example, the most plastic or persistent synthetic molecules we produce, the higher the chances future civilizations will find traces of us. Our society produces 300 million tons of plastic each year worldwide, almost the equivalent of the weight of the entire human population. Even if we wipe out ourselves off the face of the earth with a nuclear catastrophe, long-lived radioactive particles will endure in the soil eons later, signaling we had existed. Oh, we're the nasty ones in cosmic history. Oh, we're so gross. Somebody please clean us. Quote, with the Silurian hypothesis, we articulated the kinds of signals that our civilization will leave if we disappear and somebody looks at our civilization 10 or 20 million years from now, says Frank. All right. So there you go. That's science saying that there could be civilizations in the ancient past. And it's a kind of a tough situation because if they were so advanced, they wouldn't leave a footprint. But, if they're gross like us, maybe we can find some proof. Again, depending on your biblical interpretation, there's people that believe in the gap theory. There's people that believe in young earth creationism. I'm not here to argue about those things, but there is a line drawn in human history that's recorded in the Bible, and that is the flood. At least early on, ancient history. The flood of Noah, which kind of reset, it was its own kind of reset of civilization. And you look at the history of Cain, you look at Enoch, you look at all the things that took place. There's two Enochs, by the way. All the things, there's the Enoch coming from Cain's line and then Enoch from the patriarch line. So a lot was happening. Cain was building cities. You can go into Tubal Cain and his sons and all the stuff that it's pretty wild when you think about just the ancient text that talks about this pre-world, this pre-flood world. And so for science to begin asking the questions and then for them to just bring up the possibility of aliens as the explanation. I mean, this is just this is straight up biblical. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time, but it's fascinating to me.